Okay, I will now open the Estacada Urban Renewal Agency meeting. Can I have roll call, please, Cindy?
Chair Drinkwine,
Oh, there you go.
Director Prokop. Here. Director Hughes. Here. Director Litke.
Here.
Director McElroy.
Here.
Director Strobel.
Here.
Director Tenbush.
Here.
Thank you very much. Okay, we are at the first citizen and community group comment. I have none in front of me. So we're moving to consent agenda. All of you have read the minutes. Can I have a motion on the floor, please?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I have a first, so I have a second.
Second.
First and second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. We are now in agency business. And first on the list, we have a grant application for the high school pharmacy.
Yeah.
So I will turn this over to you.
Yeah, so High School Pharmacy came, they were one of the applicants for the Main Street Revitalization Grant, and they were not selected, but at that time, we told them they should look into Urban Renewal Grant. As you know, they are one of the anchor stores in our downtown district. Their application is included, and then they are here to speak a little bit more about their project. And you can come up to the mic if you want to talk. I do have, they had printed up full-size plans because I know the plans included in your packet are a little hard to see. So if you'd like to see these, I have these available too for you.
Go ahead. Thank you. Any introduce ourselves first?
Good evening. I'm Stephen Barrett. I'm the Vice President of Operations for High School Pharmacy. Go ahead.
And I am Rick Meyer. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for High School Pharmacy.
I am Ben Brist. I am the store manager of the store here in Estacada.
So what's exciting about this store for me, and I kind of talked about this in the last meeting we had, was I ran Estacada for 16 years.
A long time.
What I don't remember what years it was. 99, I think it was 97 because I got married in 97. So I know I was pre-married. And then I left in 2012. Is that, and then you've taken over since then. So between the two of us, I think we've had the store for 27 years, somewhere around there, 27 years. So now I never lived in Estacada for those 16 years. I lived in Battleground, Washington the whole time. So I commuted. I kind of teased the owners for that because I was only going to be temporary. And that was a 16-year temporary move. But so what's exciting for High School Pharmacy is we've done a lot of remodels in all of our stores. This actually is the last of them. Financially, this store has struggled for the last 5 to 6 years. We've had some competition move into town, which has hurt the front end retail part of the store. We operate all of our stores independently, so they have to pay the bills. So if we do a remodel, the store has got to be liquid enough to be able to pay for the remodel. We've kind of held it off. It's been on the docket every year for how many years have I been promising you? 5 years. I'm like, Ben, it's going to be next year, I promise. And then we push it off. So we've actually got to the end of the remodels without starting over remodels we've already done. So this one, it's in desperate need of one. I mean, I can speak for myself because of 97. I came out here when I was 19 and did the first remodel. So I'm trying to do some math here, but the floors have not been touched. Well, if I'm 50 now, I was at 30 years. It's a 30-year-old floor sitting in that store. And you can, if you walk in there, you can tell that it's a 30-year-old floor. We maintain it, we clean it, we wax it, we strip it. But we got it looks like we got some sort of moisture coming up through it because you can really tell when there's black lines in between the tiles. So it's desperate need of a floor swap out. And then this time we put vinyl flooring, we put wood vinyl flooring in these stores now. So it looks very nice. We got kind of moved on from the tile. The paint job in it's an old True Value paint job that we did back in the day. So it needs to be updated. We have a whole different decor package we put in them now. And the pharmacy is way too small for the volume that we're doing in there. So the idea is to get that pharmacy bigger, put more automation in there. So we've really tried to put, a pill counter actually, it replaces a tack. Now, we're not looking to replace a tack. We're just trying to get them more speed in there so we can get prescriptions filled at a different pace than what we're doing right now. But the problem is we can't put any automation in there in the size that pharmacy is. So remodeling and adding a pharmacy, getting him an office, doing a new layout in there to try to update it. We're hope that that would combat maybe the competition that's moved in, and that maybe we can be a little more profitable in there than we have in the last few years. So. do you have any-
Yeah, so we just had a trade show with our affiliate pharmacies. So we have under the high school pharmacy umbrella, we have around 150 customers that are outlying pharmacies that aren't under our umbrella, but they participate in our buying and our size. And pharmacy is a struggling entity right now. It's, I think it's a $200 prescription, but that $200 prescription might get us back, $5 or $10 worth of margin. Because of the PBMs, the guys that hold the purse strings, and if everybody's familiar with the pharmacy benefit managers, they claw back quite a bit of a margin that's available with prescriptions. So you think of pharmacy, are you doing 200 a day? About 200 prescriptions a day at $60, $70 a prescription. That those dollars add up, but the margin isn't there. So when we talk about when Steve talks about the liquidity of the store, about the last 5 years, that pharmacy has grown in volume, but has kind of negated the profitability of the front end. And I think a town like Estacada needs to have a pharmacy. I don't want us to have to make the decision on how we remodel the store without a little bit of supply of cash in the bank, on the thought of maybe pharmacies a struggling category in that store. But at 200 plus prescriptions a day, I think you guys would probably attest to it. You're probably customers of the pharmacy. And I know there's mail order, there's Fred Meyer's in Sandy, but the reality is there's probably not going to be too many chains that would move into an Estacada at this point, being that the pharmacies, it's an interesting business to be in. And then when I brought up the fact that we talked to all these customers that we had at our trade show, every regional pharmacy, every independent is experiencing the same situation that we are with our pharmacies. And what's nice about it is because we have the 150 stores in our group, we're not just a small, pharmacy company that's located in Vancouver with outlying stores. We have almost $500 million in prescription business with those 150 stores. So we are, we are a player when it comes to contracts and those types of things. And I think that you guys would have to, agree that keeping anchors like a high school pharmacy, a variety store in town is something that every city, especially Estacada, I love driving out here. It's beautiful. I like the vibe of the downtown area. I think it's a to leave the concrete jungle and come out and experience a town like Estacada is rewarding to us. And I'd love to see that store be reflective of a town like Estacada. And currently, I don't think that it is. And I'm not proud of the way it looks. And I don't think our ownership would be proud of the way it looks. And that's kind of why we're here, seeing if we can get some help in improving that look and improving the experience of the citizens of Estacada and the outlying areas. So we'll take any questions. Do you have anything to add, Ben?
Sherry, you have something you want to ask?
Yeah, and this might be a question for Ben. How many employees do you have at this store?
We currently have about 20 employees.
Okay, and how many of those 20 employees live in the city of Estacada?
I'd say about probably most of them, about maybe 13 of them.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. Cool.
So I noticed that pretty much all the changes you're planning on doing are internal. What plans do you have to do anything external that's showing on the street side?
Well, when we pulled up today, I said, we got to do something with paint on the exterior of the building. It's glowing right now. I mean, it was a color that so Steve and I kind of took over for the previous management team, and they were, they put the last remodel in the store and they put the last paint on the outside of the walls. We do, if you go into, if we have the Silverton location, we have a nice gray palette for the outside of the store that has a couple different shades of gray that just looks really updated and clean. And then you go into the store and it's white and primarily black we use exterior photos around the building, the interior of the building that reflect the historical value of the city that we're in. So it just, we'd love to throw some paint on the outside. And if it all gets down to budget. So that's kind of what we're looking at. We had some ideas about a garden center out there in some format, but it just would require too much engineering and end up costing too much. So hopefully that answers your question adequately.
Looking at the plans, I noticed that the pharmacy is moving. So what is the plan for the walk-up window?
The walk-up window would probably go away. Well, it would go away, actually. We contemplated because we talked about the backside there. There's a little space off the road, the way that building is kind of designed, where we could do a drive-up window, but we've kind of moved away from doing drive-up windows. It's the only walk-up window we have in the chain. What happens is it takes the customer out of the store, and we ultimately our goal is to get you in the store. And I'm gonna be honest with you, with the margins of the prescriptions, like Rick talked about, which are minimal. I mean, our gross margins, we were built on pharmacies, and we can't live on pharmacies at this point unless something changes in the world. That it's not a money, but you don't want to get in the pharmacy business. I'm just telling you straight up, right? Don't get in the pharmacy business. Variety business is, there's still margin. I mean, Dollar General, I mean, they're probably making 40, 50 points on most of the stuff they're out there selling, we've got to combat our low margins. Jack, the owner, he said it kind of in his wrap-up speech yesterday at this trade show is people need medication, and we as high school pharmacy have an obligation to fulfill that need for the customers, whether we make money or not. Now, that being said, I mean, that's not necessarily the best model to be in, is we're going to do it even if we don't make any money. But the variety of floors have really become such an important component to just balance out that low margin in the pharmacy, and having a walk-up window and not having them come in the store where I can at least attempt to sell you a candy bar or a pop just doesn't make sense moving forward. And you can see that in a lot of retailers out there in pharmacies, that they're not necessarily building buildings with drive-up windows anymore for the same purpose.
Jerry?
So I get what you're saying there, because every time I go in to pick up a prescription, I always look at the sugar-free candy.
Yeah.
Right there next to the prescription counter.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I get that. So my actual question though is, if you do, any exterior work, can you please plan to, or try to plan to preserve that mural on the back of the building? The city of Estacada, the community of Estacada loves its murals. I love all the murals, and that one's been there for quite a while. And if there's any way to preserve that mural, that would be amazing.
Yeah, that would, I was here when that one went up. So, and I know the former owner's names on the back of the building with that. And I know we had a pretty big contribution to that. So other than the fact you guys didn't put me on it, which was, just saying, I felt like I should have been on that. But anyways, other than that, yeah, there would be absolutely no way that would ever get touched.
Okay. Joel?
So I get the point of taking away the window and bringing customers into the store, but I think there's a piece that's missing on that one, and that we have a population that is disabled, and much further for them to travel to go get those medications that they get on an annual basis. And that window is a godsend for it. My wife is also disabled, uses that window as an example. Walking through the store is hard for her because you guys don't have carts there. So do you guys plan to do something to counter that when you guys make all these changes?
To counter not having the window there.
Yeah, not basically making it harder for people with disabilities to get there because it's further in the back of the store. Are you guys gonna purchase carts or something there to kind of offset that or?
Well, I can tell you with the new location of the pharmacy, it would actually get closer to the front door, just physically, than over there on the far corner.
Oh, I thought the plan showed it in the far corner. Did I not look at that right?
No, it actually gets moved in line with the back wall. So the big purpose of this is we back in the day, the idea of having an elevated pharmacy was what everybody did. Everybody wanted their pharmacist taller than the customer, so they could, I don't know, the scheme was to look down upon them. Not too sure exactly the philosophy, but yeah,
that's correct.
but I think a lot of it was maybe a lot of smaller towns had owners that were the pharmacist and he wanted up higher so he could see, he could see his domain out there maybe a little easier. He could see over the aisles. But we've gotten to the point where we get off those elevated pharmacies and that one's elevated right now. And it's so hard for me to remodel a store. Remodel that pharmacy on an elevated platform with that. How do you pull the rug out from underneath their feet while we're still operational without closing it? The easiest solution is to build the pharmacy in a better location or a different location and then demo out the platform, right? So it made sense. Plus I had a lot more real estate back there to play with. So it made sense to move it to the back. One of the biggest complaints in all pharmacies is the bathroom is so far away from the pharmacist, right? He's legally not supposed to leave the pharmacy. But for him to get to a restroom is always a challenge, right? So this actually, the design puts a bathroom right next to the pharmacist, which as soon as I show them that, they always lighten up. And they're always like, oh, thanks for putting the bathroom in there closer. But so two things to move the pharmacy. One was to get it bigger space to work with, get it off the elevation, get a bathroom next to them. That was the three key components that we're always looking for. So the walk-up window just doesn't. I mean, could we move it to the back of the building? I'm not saying we couldn't move it to the back of the building. It falls back into that philosophy of we're trying to get them to walk through the front door and not out on the sidewalk. I actually want them in the building. So
We can, yeah, because then it would impact that mural on the back wall too, if we have to actually move the walk-up window to that area there. So when your question is, as far as accessibility, we do still have, and although we haven't been offering it, we still do offer curbside service. That's one of the things. And then what Steve was saying, the pharmacy the counter will end up being a good 80+ feet closer to the front door, because it's going to be through the front door at about a 20-degree angle to the back wall, and before it's a 90-degree angle back to the side of the building. So it will be closer to the front door.
Have there been any conversations about the viability of that store staying open? Like if you guys do the remodel and you don't get an increase in spending outside of the pharmacy, are you guys planning on being here for another 10 years after you get the grant? If you were to get the grant, if it didn't work out and the numbers didn't tick up in 2 or 3 years, is it going to come into a conversation where you're going to be thinking about closing it because it's not viable?
I would never say never as far as the reality of pharmacy at this point, but in the big scheme of things, we've been it's been a very tight margin store for the last 3 or 4 years and has never been brought up into the fact that we're going to cease operations there. So again, like Steve was saying, Jack is a proponent of independent pharmacies. And even though this has high school pharmacy and we're a corporation, we treat this as an independent store. And our mission is to take care of the patients within the communities that we operate. And I can honestly say, both Steve and Jack are retirement age, but we have a vice president of new business is his daughter, is Jack's daughter. And the goal is to have her take over some of the operations. So Unless the entire bottom would drop out of this, of the pharmacy category, I cannot see us closing it within 10 years. But I'm not gonna sit here and say that, in 3 years, a lot of pressure on the economy right now and those types of things could come into play, but it has not been spoken of and is not in any way, shape or form on the horizon.
Thank you.
Joe?
My last question for you, I think, is what's it mean for your project if you guys either A, don't get the grant or get a lesser amount of the grant?
So, I mean, the proposal I have to the ownership group is obviously what we want to do, right? It always comes down to, like I said, how much money, how liquid are we to be able to do? We currently are not liquid enough to do everything I want to do. Paint the outside of the building, move the pharmacy, redo the floors, put all LED lighting in there, put a whole new product mix in there. It's just not going to be feasible for what the bank account shows at the moment. So that, I mean, that, and like I said, we're at the end. I can't push him off anymore. It's now or never. I mean, the store is in desperate need. I mean, I just walked in there again today, and I ran it for 16 years, and man, it was beautiful. It was my home for 16 years, and I look in there today and I think we have got to do something here. It's almost embarrassing. It's so bad. So what we want to do and what we can do is going to really be decided upon this meeting. I think can I shortcut some things and make it look better than it is? Absolutely. We can put paint on walls. We can move things around. The floor, it's falling apart. So, I mean, I got to figure out the floor. I thought, could I save money by doing a concrete polish? We figured that out in Silverton, that is not, that doesn't save you a lot of money. So going back to a vinyl floor, and this one I think is going to be, for one, it's going to fit the town scheme better, a wood vinyl floor. I mean, it's just going to fit this atmosphere in down here a little bit better. I mean, like I said, I know this place pretty well. So, and some of these, what's interesting is some of these thoughts that I've had in my head have been in there since I was running it. Like, man, if I could remodel this thing, this is what I would do. And now I'm the guy who actually gets to remodel things. So now I get to put everything I want on a piece of paper. So whether or not it gets done or not is going to be questionable. Yeah.
Paul? So you're coming to us, the Urban Renewal Board here, and applying for an urban renewal grant. I know you guys have read the requirements here, but in a nutshell, why urban renewal? Why should we give you the grant? How do you meet the requirements of the urban renewal system here?
Oh, you want to do this one?
So when we applied for the previous grant and were denied that because we didn't really fit the criteria of restoring a historical building, we were provided some guidance to apply for the renewal grant. And as this is a business in the downtown area, that I would say that if anybody went in there, the idea is there needs to be some form of an update to that building. All right. And like I said, the reality is if we can't get some assistance with this, then there would be, there would be some questions on what we can do to the out front to, again, change the product mix in there. So it would just be one of those things that we would not be able to do what we want to do in the remodel. And then we'd have to make some decisions on what gets cut and what stays in the store. So as far as the renewal aspect of it, I can't imagine that there isn't a need for renewal in that store. And I don't know, I think we provided some input to the application process in regards to that. Is there something that you were concerned about as far as go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just going to call out some of the objectives in the urban renewal plan. Because typically, we've seen some high impact exterior stuff, exterior and interior. Crescendo Dance Studio was mostly interior, but they did paint the outside, and it's become a really robust place where people are in and out a lot. But one of the one of the goals and objectives is promote a mix of retail and office development oriented to pedestrians. And I'm reading this out of the urban renewal plan. Facilitate the redevelopment and rehabilitation of existing underutilized commercial buildings to expand the range of retail shopping, commercial services in downtown Estacada. I think this is kind of a rehabilitation type of a situation, and from their experience with other stores, it would increase the shopping that happens there. Promote high quality development, including office space, ground floor retail space. So the office space above the retail to attract a broad range of businesses, increase employment. And this doesn't necessarily attract, it isn't the office space, but it does helps to create a robust retail shopping environment in downtown Estacada. And it's one more place people can walk to. They can kind of do the loop, the post office, the grocery store, the bank, have lunch, go to the pharmacy, whatever. And it is a draw for downtown. So I think there could be, it is a good case of increased employment and business activity within the area is another goal.
And
I'd like to
I
touch on
will
that
add
one
that
real
there
quick.
was, on the grant application, it does specifically say that we're looking for retail and businesses that are open after 5 p.m. And this is one of the few downtown businesses that is open that late.
Thing, real quick there. In the stores that we have remodeled, we're in that 7 to 14 to 15% increase in revenue. So just on the out front, even when we talk about pharmacy being impacted negatively by profit margins, and the stores that we have, like our Malala location that we remodeled a couple years ago, it had a situation where the Weimar changed their pharmacy mix and didn't have pharmacy anymore, so it increased 20%. But for a 2 or 3 year average, it's in the double-digit growth in sales, which then allows us to hire additional associates.
Right, thank you, Charity.
I have a really serious question. Are you guys ever gonna get that gumball machine back? Or can you?
Talk to you about gumballs and bouncy balls. We just literally had this so we pulled them for COVID, right? Because it was just a COVID thing. It was a touch point. We didn't feel like they should be out there. The price of gumballs and bouncy balls have gone astronomically high. Like, I don't know what happened to them, but all of a sudden we were charging, I think, 50 cents for a gumball. Am I correct on that?
Yep.
Something like that. My kids love that.
It was
For a gumball, 50 cents for a plate.
Oh, yeah, it was a quarter for a gumball. Yeah. So we literally were looking at, like, can you change the validator? The coin op thing. So we literally have looked into Magic Gumball as a company to see if they have new guts to put in these things, because we're literally just break it even because the price have gone up and we can't change the validator in them. So we either got to buy all new validators or buy all new gumball machines, one of the two. But that's to answer your question. 2-inch gumball. We literally talked about.
You guys remember what I'm talking about?
Oh, no, I know exactly.
Times because of
Yes.
that gumball machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kids love it.
No.
Yeah.
I don't have a question. I have more of a statement. High school pharmacy has been iconic in our community. There's no doubt that you are rooted here, and a lot revolves around you being here. Do you follow the criteria that's on our thing? I think so, very much so. I read it over. I have to say that if we had to make a decision about a store that was worth saving and being a part of our community, it's definitely you. So we appreciate everything you've done. And I think we're all pretty much on the same page on this one. So I'm not going to worry about it too much, but I want to thank you for everything you've done. And Ben, I've dealt with you for years, and I've dealt with you before Ben. So I know the store. I know it well. I know the people that work there. I'm very excited that you applied for this, because I think it fits for what you're trying to do. But that said, I will hand it back over to Melanie.
Okay, there's no recommendation for any particular motion, but it could be a motion to approve the grant application as presented, or it could be a modification of that, whatever. You think you're-
I feel comfortable in the way it was written and what I've saw and what I've read on the criteria. So I asked that we put it up for a motion. It'll be a roll call vote. if that's okay.
I move to approve the grant as proposed.
Okay, I've got a first out of Jerry. Do I have a second?
Second that.
Okay, can I have a roll call, please?
Director Prokop,
Yes.
Director Hughes,
Yes.
Director Litke,
Yes.
Director McElroy,
Yes.
Director Strobel,
Yes.
Director Tenbush,
Yes.
Chair Drinkwine.
Yes. So thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate you coming forward tonight and giving your best.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
Okay, we have urban renewal end of plan options. So I'll hand that over to you two again.
I'm gonna go, yeah. All right. I forgot my script. Thank you. Thanks for being
Thank
here.
you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next topic on the agenda is urban renewal end of plan options, which we are approaching in a couple of years. And we reached out to Elaine Howard, who is all things urban renewal. She's the expert in Oregon urban renewal, and asked her to take a look at our plan and provide some options in case it's, in case we wanted to do any kind of an extension on this urban renewal plan in particular, rather than just winding it down and either calling it good or starting a new one. And so she provided the memo that's in the packet. She looked at the duration. Could we extend the time limit? Because it's limited out to 20 years. Can the maximum indebtedness be increased? Can the projects be changed? Can the boundary be changed? And then what do you have to do to accomplish that? And most anything that's going to be a big enough change to matter takes a substantial amendment, which takes the same process as getting an original plan going. And so it's a year or two of work to probably maybe a little less than doing a whole new plan, but for the duration, we could extend it. That's typically if you are not going to reach the maximum indebtedness amount, which I think we're doing pretty well at timing that out to, in the next couple of years to be able to meet our 6.6 million of maximum indebtedness. Can the amount change? Can the maximum indebtedness be changed? And yes, that's a substantial amendment. And so if you increase it 20% or more, then you have to get concurrence with the taxing districts, means 75% of where the taxes come from. So usually she said that's the school, the fire, the county and the city. If we all agree, yes, but there's a process. We could do that if we wanted to. If there's more projects, this would be if there's more projects in this district that we want to do that we haven't been able to accomplish. Could the projects be changed? Yes, if there's stuff that's come up, we want to add new projects. Can the boundary be changed? It can be changed minimally. And so after reading this, if you want to discuss it, or if you have questions, Elena or Peter could speak to that as well as me. I think what I'm gaining from this is that it's probably good to wrap this down. And then potentially, if you wanted to look at starting another one, we could do that. That would be, a little ways out. But questions on this or?
Joe?
You kind of said at the very end there, my thought would be to wind this one down because the original one was opened by a vote of the people. I think we should offer them that option again to vote on it and see what they have to say about it.
Mhm.
So, if we do any extending, we kind of bypass that to a degree. So,
Mhm.
and that's so my thought is to
Okay,
right now.
thank you.
Jerry, and then Paul.
I mean, I can't disagree with that. I think that some pretty amazing things have come from this urban renewal agency and the money from urban renewal. So I would like to see, this one, like I said, or like Joel said, this one, wound down, come to the end, and then us, whenever that has to take place, but put it out to the people to see. I mean, as long as we're getting the information out there of what we've done, what the city's accomplished with the funds from urban renewal, as long as they're getting that information, yeah, absolutely. Put it to the people for a vote and hopefully move forward another 20 years.
And I'm in agreement as well too, but clarification, put in a vote to the people, is it the people of Estacada or is it specifically those within the urban renewal district?
So I'd have to look at I'd have to look at your charter and code. It's probably, my recollection of how this started was a citywide vote authorizing the urban renewal. And, you know, I think that at the beginning that the fire district in particular didn't have to give up a whole lot. But as your increments gone up, which is how it's supposed to work, they're giving up more and more. And so I certainly consider this to be a successful urban renewal area. The comparison not downtown now versus even 10 years ago is pretty dramatic. But I sense that there would be some pushback if we went to our partners because they have kind of deferred that increment for a long time. And we met with the fire chief last week to discuss a number of issues, including parking, including the overnight sleeping from a health and safety concern. And I got the feeling they're kind of looking forward to us getting everything back on the tax rolls. So.
So if we let it expire, give it maybe a 12-month period, then reapply, re-put it back out to people, does that boost the tax rolls back up? And then we can reapply it and they're going to get those tax rolls through they need. It'll lock them in at that point and then we go from there. So they're going to kind of kill two birds, one stone.
Yes. So what the tax base was frozen when this went into urban renewal. And when it comes out of urban renewal, it will, all the increment that was flowing to the city, that'll flow to the taxing districts. The schools are a little bit different because the money goes from the cities into a state pool. It gets pooled with all the other state funds and then it goes out to jurisdictions on a per student basis. So that urban renewal generally doesn't have a whole urban renewal in one city. Urban renewal statewide might impact kids, but in one city, it doesn't have much impact. But it's the other special districts that really feel it. And usually the special district that feels it the most is the fire district.
Just to kind of tack onto that, as this district or agency would wind down, everything that is in the district would start going back, the taxes in the next year would go back to the agencies that were giving up that tax revenue. And when we started out, because what they do is they take the initial assessed value of the area, and that's your frozen base. So the fire district and the vector control and 4-H and the community, everybody was, they keep getting that same amount at that level. And then anything that grows above that is what goes to the agency, the urban renewal agency. And so when we started out, the first year we got tax increment was about $36,000. So if you look at the plans, look at the projects, that we've done over the years, if we could have done those all at the beginning, look how much money we would have saved based on not, doing them now with inflation. We could have done them back, 15 years ago, but we were getting $36,000, then $40,000 and 50, 60, it kind of crept up slow. And partway through, I had a conversation with the fire chief because they were concerned that they were giving up too much urban renewal, how much were they losing? But because the agency partnered with them in the purchase of the properties and contributed to them purchasing property to expand on, they hadn't really lost anything at that point. But now look at what we're budgeting this year, $495,000 to receive in taxes over this area. So the growth has been as you would want it to be, from 36,000 to 490 some $1,000. And so it has been successful, and it is, in the beginning, it doesn't really impact them that much because it's working off that frozen base. But once you get to the end, they'll be very helpful for them to start receiving that.
So, but their concern is that they want to get back to that. So if we let that go so they clicks into it, they start getting that amount of money, and then we once voted in again, yes, it'll freeze it, but they're going to be frozen at a higher level versus if we froze it immediately with that, or if it was immediately voted on and we did a whole new one, would that change the tax base for them, or would it just kind of roll over and keep freezing it?
So that it's unlikely that this exact area would go back into urban renewal at the new basis, because the goal was a lot of the goals have been achieved. There are other areas of the city that are challenging from an infrastructure standpoint, from an access standpoint, as well as would meet those definitions of blight. And so what we would want to do, if once this expires, if there's another area of the city that it makes sense to put in urban renewal, we would work with the fire district and other impacted folks to make sure that they were on board and saw what could happen if we were able to leverage the funds through urban renewal. But they'll get their full increment off of this area. And then the city will get its increment. It'll just be going into your general fund instead of going into the urban renewal fund.
Mhm.
And it's possible that some percentage of this district might be put in back into urban renewal. I don't know. But my experience with special districts has been they like at least 80% of it to get their increment off of. I mean, anything more than that. And there are jurisdictions that do it almost like a centipede where they kind of move it. But people really kind of like the end of it. It gets returned to the tax rolls. Everyone can celebrate, the deferred, what they've deferred and get it now. And then if there's another opportunity where we can get that same sort of growth, we could look at that area and convince other stakeholders.
Will there be any debt left to be serviced? And how does that look once it returns back to those other agency? How's the debt serviced at that point? Is the gap between where it was froze and where it comes back into play, that gap used to service the debt?
So we would continue to collect the tax increment until we couldn't incur any more debt or do any more projects. But we would continue to collect the tax increment and strictly use it to pay off the debt. So it would pay off relatively quickly at the wrap up of that plan.
What is that number right now? The serviceable debt?
Good question. I wrote it down for the budget committee meeting. I didn't write it down tonight.
Okay.
I think we have about $1 million left. Was it about $1 million left on Main? And then we'll have however much we use on Broadway. We could borrow, what's that? I mean, on Broadway and then on Main, when we do Main, so we could borrow up to 1.7 million, but I don't think it's going to cost that much. And so we'll have those two. That's our only debt left.
About 6 years that those contributions will be going to service the debt
That's what
after it ends.
That is what it is looking like. And maybe a little shorter, based on the tax increment going up and based on the amount of funds that we have now that would just go towards the debt. We wouldn't be trying to roll it into new projects. We'd just be paying for it, yeah.
Any other questions?
Unless we did a loan, and we haven't talked about this, do like a loan program where you continue to get, what's that called?
So instead of doing the grant, like we gave out the grant, we could do a revolving no interest loan program. And so instead of giving it out and not receiving anything back, that would be potential to kind of save some of that end of the program income, give it out as a low or no interest loan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any more questions? Answer. Okay, my personal opinion on this is, I like the idea of letting this lapse and going into a new district. I mean, I see areas that we really need to focus on, and this may be a tool in the future. So if we can get everybody on the same page, I think letting it lapse and then having that year of recovery, and then maybe looking at this again is a smart idea. We've talked about this as well, Melanie.
Yes.
So I'm really excited about the possibilities and the fact that we're coming to the end. And I think if you look at what we've done with the urban renewal, we've been very responsible considering what I've seen around the state. So I'm really excited about that. And we've got a lot of show for it. So
I think it'd be a great idea to have to put together a final report on it.
Yeah.
You know, the timeline when the projects were done, what the cost was, how, you know, how they had improved over time. And
Yeah.
that would be kind of a little year end or district end type of a nice little book that we could put together.
The other way that we might be able to demonstrate further support for our impacted partners is that the fire district is going to be going out at some point in the next year or two to get architectural plans for their new station. And one of the things that we were discussing, because it's a council priority, is parking. And the fire chief mentioned, well, once we have the architectural plans, then we'll know what the footprint of the building is. And we'll know what could be used for public parking or others. I mean, as long as they have kind of a set number, and in the interim, we might be able to gravel. But he said, you know, as long as we have enough dedicated spots reserved, which wouldn't be a problem, then they're open to those things. And so you could partner with the fire district on those architectural plans, and that might speed them up and kind of meet multiple council objectives. So we could then do the gravel, or if there's paved parking they'll be able to utilize in the future, that could happen too. But that's one use of urban renewal fund that could further benefit, you know, someone that has given up some increment.
That sounds decent. Anything else that you'd like to put to this? So tonight, what are we looking for at this point? Just kind of
Just kind of gauging where everybody's at. It seems like there's, if I'm reading it right, consensus that this is good to go ahead and finish this plan strong, wrap it up, and then look at what might come next
Yeah.
in the next potential next plan, or, you know, down the road a little bit.
And there
But I
might be
think
something you want to add to the end of this urban renewal. One more project that we were looking at that we talked about. Would that be on here on the next one?
Yes, now my mind has slipped. If you want to bring it up, go ahead, because.
Yeah, you know, we looked at Barbara's Flowers building that was
Oh, yeah.
right down on Broadway. And I know they applied for the Main Street grant and they didn't receive it. And it was a big deal. I mean, it was a great location. You're fired.
I turned it off. I don't know that.
Yeah, it's a great location, and the idea behind it, I think, is the chamber was talking about moving into part of it. And then I think the wine thing was going to go into the other side, and they were going to kind of complement each other. And it was going to be, you know, a safe place for the chamber to move to. Now, in my books, this kind of falls into line with what we've all talked about. We wanted to be able to look at the chamber in a way that we could help them make a safe move that would benefit everyone. They'd be in the downtown core, they'd be in the place where they could operate. I think that kind of falls in line with what we were looking at in urban renewal because it falls in the district. I don't know how you all feel about it, but now would be a good, is this something that you would like to pursue? Or is this something that just doesn't fit with what you're?
We could reach
Okay.
out for an
Yeah.
application if it's something that. Seems
I
like
don't know.
that building
I'd
needs a
bring it to
lot of
you.
work, so.
Not opposed to it. I'd like to get a little more information on it, but
Yeah.
not opposed to that idea.
I think.
Agree.
I'm always for filling empty building space.
Yep.
So,
Well, and two, it solves another issue, and the issue was the
The
chamber.
chamber.
Yeah.
We've all been worried about how they're going to handle things and how they're going to be able to survive. And this would kind of fill in that the in between and we'd know that they're safe and in a place that they could operate out of
absolutely.
in our core, which is something we've been looking for. And it would solve a couple different issues. So I don't know. I think it's something worth pursuing.
We could reach out, definitely. See if that's, because they were talking about bringing the Forest Service back in with them in partnership too, which would be really great to have.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and that would, they'd be giving out permits and all that kind of stuff from that
Mhm.
location, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I think that's a great idea.
Okay, thank you my mind had gone blank on that one, so thank you for bringing that back up.
So I guess that there is, let's put some information together and get that in front of everybody.
Okay, yes, we'll do that. Anything
Okay.
else from? Okay,
Anything else to add? No?
good.
Okay, I'm at the next citizen and community group comment. I have none. Board member comments. I will start off with you, Jerry, tonight.
No, it's a really good meeting. Thank you, guys. Thank you, staff, for getting all the information to us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good, Heidi?
I don't have anything. Thank you.
All right, Charity?
Thanks again for reaching out on Friday and getting information to, well, actually Thursday, getting information to me. And I'm excited to see what comes of the high school pharmacy. Yeah, I think we good.
Joel?
Sorry about the phone.
Nothing further.
Okay, Mike?
I don't have anything.
And I
Thank you
have
for everyone that
nothing.
showed up.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
so this meeting is adjourned and we thank you all.